we have this gift of thought to see our world, to see life, and to see what's truly happening. And as we use thought to see what's happening, we could again feel for humanity. So it can feel heavy. You can feel sadness. You could feel the fear that looking at people harming one another brings to mind. But you have the gift of thought to see this. I mean, what I turn to is, again, what you started with, Anne, is like, the more I can stay with compassion, love, and in my own relationships, that helps the world. But the other understanding that helps me is to see that, we're looking at a level of consciousness. We're looking at human beings living at a certain level of consciousness, and as consciousness drops, people become much more frightened in their thinking, self-focused in their thinking, isolated and lonely in their thinking. If you could really look into the minds of people in very low levels of consciousness, you could understand that in there aren't many options in terms of acting in the world. And most of the options are, the lower the level of consciousness, the more harmful people act towards other people. So that helps me get an understanding that human beings creating very tragic situations and traumatic situations for one another are really coming from a level of consciousness. I don't want to join that level. I want to protect myself from that level. I've seen it very innocently in this time I spent, I've shared it with you, in an inpatient psychiatry unit for 2 years during COVID. I've never worked in a unit like that. I was asked if I could help out. And I could see when people are in low levels of consciousness, they lose sight of themselves. Their thinking about reality changes for the more fearful. Reality looks much more fearful and scary than we could even imagine. And again, there were examples of people being so caught up in that they would have a tendency to be violent on the ward. So that gives me understanding. And I want to protect my compassion, and I want to protect my ability to see it from wisdom, to see what my actions can be from a deeper essence of me, rather than my getting into thinking that drops my level of consciousness. So the understanding that, again, if we have a sense of these principles, that's what's happening. Everybody's living in different levels of consciousness, us too. Now, we're not going to drop to that level where we would do harm to another person. We just right our ship before we get to that level of, that level of thought. But everyone is in different levels of consciousness. And when you go to very low levels, it is a very frightening place for human beings, and they don't even feel like themselves. And then they get into thinking of reality as being fearful and actions around taking care of that fear. So that understanding helps. And I don't, again, like I was saying earlier, I'm just repeating myself, but I don't want to join that level. I want to stay listening for the wisdom that will guide me in terms of what can I give? How can I be that can bring harmony to humanity, or bring peace to humanity, or to bring love and understanding? And it starts with me in my life, in the people around me. Now, that understanding of levels of consciousness doesn't ignore, it doesn't agree that it's okay, it doesn't deny, but it allows us to see with understanding. That's what we want to carry, is understanding. Why would a human being do such and such? Well, they're living in a level of consciousness. That's what's creating the quality of reality they're living in. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. It doesn't ignore it. It doesn't deny it. It doesn't overlook it, but it keeps you sane. If you could stay sane, if you could stay at a level of consciousness where you're less in troubled feelings, but more in trying to see it with compassion and listen for wisdom, that keeps you, it takes care of you. See, this understanding is about you. It's not about the world, it's about you. If you live with an understanding of levels of consciousness, your mind is quieter. You then can be given direction, guidance. You see? So really, this understanding is you. Forgiveness, which is a piece of understanding, when you find it, of levels of consciousness, forgiveness is for you. So you're not sitting in the quality of thinking where you're bringing up resentments or scaring yourself or holding on to grudges. So that's the other piece to see. The more you understand and can look into the play out in life in this world of levels of consciousness, it's for you. So you can stay on the surface of the ocean and, let the ocean guide you rather than drilling holes in the boat. That's what's come to me. I hope it's helpful.